On the weekend of the 20th and the 21st of October, way back in 1989, Steve and Dawn Hess left their home in Los Angeles to enjoy a weekend of camping at the Mid-Hills Campground, 70 miles southwest of Las Vegas on the California side. The couple had borrowed Steve's dad's truck as it had a camper in the bed and could easily handle the rough terrain of the Mojave Desert. Along with the usual camping provisions, Steve also brought a 12-gauge shotgun and a 7mm Browning hunting rifle in hopes of bagging a large buck that he had seen the prior weekend in roughly the same location. Steve thought it would be a great thank you gift for his dad lending them the truck and looking after his and Dawn's two children. When the couple arrived at the campground, it was unusually packed, with no sites available. The two decided that, with the truck they were driving, they had the means to find their own campsite in the vast expanses of the Mojave. Steve and Dawn eventually stopped and made their camp at the base of Table Mountain, approximately 10 miles southeast of their original campground. Steve started a small fire and decided to cook his wife dinner. The sun had set and the desert was dark as Steve grilled steak and cooked beans over the fire. Letting his thoughts drift while staring into the never-ending starry sky, Steve noticed a light flying over nearby Woods Mountain. It was at that point that Dawn tapped Steve on the shoulder, and he was distracted from the light he had just seen. After the two finished dinner, they enjoyed a drink, while Steve pointed out various constellations to Dawn. Shortly after, the two noticed a light appear in the sky, much brighter than the stars around it and seemingly getting closer. While transfixed on the light, it split apart into 9 separate lights. Steve assured Dawn that the lights were just military maneuvers from the nearby Nellis Air Force Base. As the lights continued to fly towards them, the couple noticed that the desert had fallen incredibly still and eerily silent. The incoming lights burst into hundreds of smaller, flashing lights that descended down above the valley floor near where the couple had set up their camp. Steve grabbed his rifle, intending to protect his wife from any threat, but Dawn quickly stopped him and said that something had told her that any use of the rifle would not end well. When asked what she meant, she said that someone had spoken the words into her head, and that she hadn't actually heard them. Quickly scrambling into their truck bed camper and peering out through the window, the two watched as thousands of small, red-eyed creatures ran around the desert floor, jumping over rocks, running around their truck, and climbing sage bushes. Suddenly, Steve and Dawn noticed 2 large beings walk towards the back of their truck. They described these beings as being larger and sentient, always knowing when Steve would reach for the doorknob of the camper to try to exit and defend himself. This was enough to keep Steve in the camper. Trapped and terrified, the Hesses watched as 9 tall, thin, and slightly translucent beings surrounded their truck and started peering through the windows with large, deep black holes for eyes. Behind the translucent beings, the couple saw a massive floating craft in the distance, shining a bright light throughout the valley, seemingly looking for something or someone. After hours of huddling together in fear, the Hesses watched as the red-eyed creatures started to move back into the desert toward the large craft, followed by the tall black-eyed beings. Nerves frayed and completely exhausted, Dawn and Steve fell asleep in the back of the camper. When the two finally woke up, it was early afternoon the next day. They exited the camper to investigate their campsite. There were no signs of the previous night's visitors. No handprints, not a single footprint, nothing. In fact, the only evidence of anything strange were 2 puncture marks on Dawn's neck. The couple packed up their gear, left the desert valley, and headed back to their home in Los Angeles. What happened that night in the Mojave Desert? Did they somehow share a hallucination? Was it an elaborate hoax? Or did something beyond our comprehension visit the Hesses' campsite? What are your thoughts? Subscribe and let us know. And as always, stay curious.